Great, thank you very much. This is Elizabeth Dickey, the chair of the Guest Services Community. Welcome to our community's very first webinar. I am grateful to our speaker, Amanda Russell, who's a manager of guest services at Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens, for giving today's presentation. I attended her half-hour talk at the 2018 APGA conference in Anaheim, California, and what I brought back is making a significant impact on how my garden will be training staff. What they are doing at Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens is an excellent example of guest services best practices. Thank you very much, Amanda. This presentation will be recorded and added to the Guest Services Library and Media Center. During the talk, you will be introduced to the quality standards established at CMBG. You will find them, including all their bulleted points, in our community's library. Please ask your questions in the chat box. Our Communications Director, Christine Martinez, will collect your inquiries during the webinar and share them at the end for Amanda to answer. Amanda, they are all yours.
Well, good afternoon, everybody from Boothbay, Maine. We're just getting over a significant storm, not ice and snow, but wind and rain, but I'm here today. So I've been with CMBG since 2006, a year before our official grand opening in 2007. I've worn many, many hats, and currently I am the manager of guest services here at the Gardens. Let me give you a short history of our program to put it into context. From 2007, when we opened, to 2014, we did not have a formal guest services program. In that year, 2014, I was sent out to Disney, the Disney Institute, to take their week-long course called Disney's Approach to Quality Service. That spring, the staff and I created and then launched Gardens for You Guest Services Program. And through that year, and also during 2015, we were realizing that we were thinking about guest services in a very different way before. We were seeing that it transformed the way we design landscapes, whether they were gardens or parking lots, and even how we planned programming. Because we were learning to consider that every point of contact between a person and the gardens and the physical gardens itself was a point of service and therefore part of our program. In 2016, TripAdvisor, which rates visitor experience, had ranked CMBG the #1 public garden in the country. And in 2017, we analyzed our social media contents to see if what people were saying was having an effect and could have more of an effect on our program. And we found that the second most common positive comment about the gardens was its people, and people we had defined as staff, volunteers, even other guests. In 2018, our Gardens for You program had been selected to be presented at the National APGA Convention. And here in 2019, we are honored to be a part of this webinar. So how did we do this? Well, first we asked ourselves, who is our Gardens for? In a staff-wide survey, we said that the Gardens is for our guests, our members, our donors, the community, our staff, our volunteers, our board, our interns, even our guest educators and our business partners. In other words, our guest services program and this Gardens is for every person who comes into contact with the Gardens. And that is the foundation of every service decision we make. Then we started talking about what do we want our guest services program to really focus on, and what was the essence of it. And we decided once again as a staff that the power of an exceptional guest services program lies in its ability to create an emotional connection. Oh, just a minute, I'm just trying to move my screen for you all, and I'm having a little bit of a problem here. I think because the host has stopped it. Okay, let's see if this goes. Wait just a minute. cannot start. The host has stopped my video, and I don't know really what that means. Let me see. I might have to just talk to you, and you could, I don't want to have to. Well, hopefully we will keep going on this. And I will keep talking, and maybe we can start. Somebody will figure out how I can change my PowerPoint frames. But let me get back to what this emotional connection is all about, because that is a very different than simply providing a product or a service. What we have to do, we decided, is to touch the heart and soul of those we have built the gardens for. And remember, our gardens is for everyone, we decided, including the staff. Emotional engagement is the key to an exceptional guest experience, touching the heart of everyone. It starts with our hearts. So the culture of service, that desire to want to help people and serve people, starts inside each of us. The ability to create that emotional connection for our guests starts internally. Our individual passion about the gardens drives our day-to-day operations.
Excuse me, and Amanda, have you tried using the arrows on your keyboard?
Yes, I have, and I can't.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes for some reason. Okay,
excellent.
And I happen to be at the frame that I'm supposed to be at. Sorry, everybody. Let's get back to work. Whoops. Let me see. Gallup poll shows that emotionally engaged customers are at least 3 times more likely to recommend, 3 times more likely to return, less likely to go other places and shop around for another experience, and much less price sensitive. So it's the experience that we're striving for, not the product. Every decision we make follows standards so that no decisions are made off the cuff or for the wrong reasons. Nothing is improvised. Whether we're building gardens or parking lots, every decision is part of our guest services program, because every point of contact with the gardens affects the CMBG experience. These standards are the basis of our Gardens for You guest services program and guide every single decision. I'm not going to go through every bullet point of each of our 4 standards, but I want to go through the titles of each standard briefly. There are many, many bullets for each standard defining the standard. They are all behaviors and tasks that can be easily measured. Either they're very black and white, very yes or no. Either we've done them or we haven't done them. Quality standard number 1 is safety and prevention. It provides for the welfare of every person who comes into contact with Coastal Maine Botanical Gardens. This is an important part of our operations, as I'm sure it's yours. But we never really considered that it was part of our guest services program like we do now. And there are certain things on here that we have not, we strive to complete, but we're not quite there. For instance, we want to install call boxes in our outer gardens for the safety of people who are out there. We're not quite there yet, but we will be someday. We're going to come back to quality standard, approachability, and human relationships, how we act. I am going to go through this very detailed to give you a sense of how detailed and how measurable these behaviors are. But first, I want to go over quality standard number 3, style and appearance. This creates a consistent guest experience throughout the garden's experience. For instance, using material of the highest grade, maintaining our dress code, and exhibiting the measurable behaviors of quality standard number 2. For instance, when we designed our new parking lots together with our new visitor center, our parking lots are an extremely awesome part of our sustainability program now. Our parking lots, they are too big for us because we overplan them on purpose, but they're also permeable. The, the stormwater runoff going through our parking lots goes through a series of filtration underneath, and that water is cleaner than the water, stormwater going through the woods, believe it or not. People expect this, this level of excellence from us, and that's something that our guest services program guides. The last quality standard is safety, straightforwardness, and simplicity. This is a challenge for us. It's to create a seamless and intuitive experience at every touch point, points of contact with the organization that affects the guest experience. Once again, when we first opened, we had these beautiful little parking lots set in the woods, and they were, we called them pods, and people would drive up to the parking lots, and they would get out of their car, and they would say, "Where do we go now?" And no amount of signs or arrows could tell them where to go up to the visitor center that was outside of the woods. So when we designed our visitor center, our new visitor center, and our new parking, we had people drive past the visitor center. So they would know, yes, that's where I go. They would park in our parking lots and get out of their cars, and they see the visitor center, and they can walk over to it and go through the admissions process. There's not signs telling them where to go or what to do. They know this intuitively. Still, this is a hard one because we don't want too many signs out in the gardens, but we certainly don't want people getting lost. This is a challenge for us, and I think it always will be. Let's go back to quality standard number 2. I would like to go through this quality standard about how we cultivate sincere human relationships that require each other's emotional needs, wants, and expectations being met. In quality standard number 2, the first bullet is, we greet guests and each other with a smile and an appropriate welcome when guests and each other pass within 4 feet. And the second bullet is, we make eye contact when speaking with guests and each other. Now, you might think that that is a funny rule or aspect that we actually write down and expect people to do. But I always put myself into that, into the situation where if I am late for if I'm subbing for one of my admissions teams out at the admissions table and the lobby, and I'm late to meet them, if I go charging out of my office and with blinders on, walk across the room to relieve that staff person, what kind of a message does that send to people when they're looking at me? It's not friendly, and it's not nice, and it's not welcoming. So now, when I forget that, or I'm in a hurry and I'm running here and there, I always make sure that I look at people and welcome them if I come within 4 feet or close to them. We are expected to do that here. Another bullet is, we are openly friendly and show sincere interest in our guests and each other's experiences. When we meet them. So for instance, if we see somebody that is having trouble with their maps, maybe to understand where to go next, we are expected to go over to that person and help them. And we go over to that no matter who we are, because we know that it is okay to be off task if we are making sure that we're helping somebody. So we are expected to leave our posts if we know that we can help somebody that we see who is in need of help. Our horticulturists are expected to get up off their knees when somebody approaches them and to talk with people and to answer questions. My admission staff, they're expected to leave their post and go find that flower that one of the guests has asked them about. Our volunteers are expected to leave their post to help other people. It has been one of the most liberating aspects of our guest services program, that as long as we're helping anybody, we can leave our posts and make sure that our guests and each other are being taken care of. Here are 3 things that we say, and that at first new people especially might feel that it's awkward, but the more you say it, the more fun and the more natural it becomes. We are expected to thank members for being members. When you see that lime green member sticker on their shirt, we thank them. Thank you for being a member. That's such an important way to support us. We thank volunteers for volunteering. When you see that volunteering badge that our volunteers wear, we thank them, because that is another important way where that they support us. We would not be where we are today without our volunteers. And we thank guests for visiting. We know and find accurate answers to questions asked by guests or staff or each other. And that is a very important aspect. We want to be consistent with all of the information we're given out. We have a 2-page Bible, so to speak, that has all the commonly asked questions that we can refer to anytime. We go to each other to get those questions that are asked by our guests. We also, especially at the admissions table, we're always being asked, what's this flower? Whether they show it on their iPhone or they've taken a picture of it. And there's only one of us out there that is a true plant person, believe it or not. So we have all of the business cards of our horticulturists there, and we give them to people and we say, I don't know what that flower is, but email or text Jen Dunlap and she will be sure to get back to you. We explain the reasons behind a painful policy. Hopefully, you don't have too many painful policies. You shouldn't. We have several of them. One of the painful policies that we're constantly asked, especially at the end of the day, is we do lock the gate at closing time, whether it's 5 o'clock in the spring, in the shoulder seasons, or it's 6 o'clock during the summer. And people, if we were to just say, you have to be out by 5 o'clock, or we lock the gate at 5 o'clock, that is not a very inviting or welcoming or nice way to state a policy. So we explain it, and we say the reasons we ask you that we lock the gate and we need to have everybody out of the gardens is for your safety, because there is very few staff at the end of the day, and if something happens to you, then we need to be able to take care of you. Another painful policy, I think we all have this on our list of rules, is we only accept service dogs or service animals. Usually it's service dogs. And we explain that policy before we simply turn people away. Because we cannot risk any kind of damage to our beds that we so meticulously plan and put money into and maintain for the gardens. Now, you probably already know this, but as far as service dogs go, we are allowed to ask guests who bring in service dogs or their dogs, we are allowed to ask legally, is that a service dog? And if the person says, well, it is my therapy dog, we say, well, we only allow service dogs, and we explain the reason why. If people say, yes, this is a service dog, and we quite clearly know that it is not a service dog, because as you know, there is no national or state certification, and any kind of vest or that denotes a service dog doesn't have to come from a certified owner. You can order these things off the internet. But if somebody says, yes, and it's clearly not a service dog, legally, we could ask, what services does that dog perform for you? But we don't really like to do that, because it's not a very welcoming next step for our guests. So what we do is we educate them about how a service dog behaves. On a tight leash, next to your thigh at all time, and of course, clean up after your pet or after your service animal. So we always explain what the reasons behind a painful policy. We practice the herd method for service failure. This, we are very adamant about all of our staff and our volunteers being able to perform. Make sure, I can cross these right off. I thank members for being members. Are we thanking volunteers for volunteering? Are we thanking guests for visiting? Does the staff person know and recite accurate answers? All of these bullets and these aspects of every quality standard, and especially quality standard number 2, we can, they're measurable behaviors. Either you do them or you don't. And it's been very effective for especially our new people coming on and our seasonal people. Many times they're young people coming in for the summer to work, that they understand what we expect of them. And it's only by teaching them what we expect of them and then making sure that they're practicing them and we're assessing them, do we really know that everybody has that consistent response. I'm going to go back here a little bit. So, the last bullet, just added that. We routinely pick up garbage on the ground. It's not just the facilities do that. So quality standard number 2 is one way we define and practice and demonstrate being nice. And believe it or not, this year on our job descriptions, we even have a requirement that we have to be nice. Niceness is a required quality. So let me go past here. So the 3 pieces to the way we think about guest service contributed to us being the #1 public garden in the country is number 1, exceptional guest service starts internally in the heart of every person at the gardens and emanates externally through demonstrating measurable behaviors. We have to feel passion about our gardens before we can really demonstrate passion about the garden. 2, those measurable behaviors are taught, practiced, assessed, and executed to perfection so that they are consistent throughout the organization and within the CMBG experience. And finally, exceptional guest service is more than just being nice and having customer-friendly policies. Guest services integrates all departments, all operations, and all people, whether they are staff, guests, members, board, donors, or vendors, into a single organic culture of service. We serve, and our short motto for the program is, we serve not just our customers, we serve each other. And those words, we serve each other, are so important to the bottom line of our guest services program. We are the ones that have to feel the passion so that we can pass that passion on to everybody else. So I guess, Elizabeth, if there's been anybody asking questions, this is a time that we can do it.
Yes, so we've had a couple questions. One, be a reminder that this presentation, as well as your quality standards with all the bullet points, will be found on the Community Services Media and Library Center. So the quality standards are there now, and then following this presentation, that will be uploaded there. We had a question from Sarah Hartley. If you leave your post to help someone, what about the people that are waiting to be helped? What do you say to them?
Well, that's a good question. We don't, when I said that, I should have also added, we can't leave our coworkers or guests in up a tree. So usually when that happens, we have like 4 people at admissions at a time. Cafe has many people working at a time, same with gardens, same with the garden shop. So we always make sure that there's at least one person that can take care of them. But there is a certain amount of, when we leave, for instance, in admissions, I might have a line and I need to help this person go out and help them with whatever question they have. And so a lot of times we'll say to the person who who needs my help, can you wait right there and let me help this other person, and then I'll be right with you. So in other words, we make sure that we're not leaving our coworkers or our guests in the lurch, and there won't be too much waiting. We have one thing in this, especially in the summer. It's my admissions team. We have an appropriate amount of people who we can do this. And remember, this is our Gardens for You guest services program dictates that we do this and help people, so that it also dictates to a certain extent, my hiring practices, that I need to have, for instance, 4 people out on the floor instead of 3, because we are expected to help people when people have problems.
Okay, thank you. So also we have another question. Could you go into any more detail, your specifics on what the training is like? So when you have your training sessions, you know, what are the components of that?
Sure. So every year in the beginning, we open April 15th, most years. One time it was April 1st, but now it's April 15th. The month prior to opening, we have a series of staff meetings, knowing that some of our seasonal staff are not there yet, some of them, but the core of our staff, we have a series of staff meetings where we go over the quality standards to make sure that, one, that they're in the front of our brain instead of in you know, on the back burner, so that for instance, facilities has one of the qualities, the bullets of, for instance, safety and prevention is we have CPR, first aid, and AED certification courses that we all do yearly. And by going over bullet to bullet, we make sure that, oh yes, we've had that training. And it puts all of these bullets and behaviors into the front of our brain to make sure that we are covering our bases on these. Remember that, you know, these bullets, I didn't make them up. The staff made them up. The staff decided that these are the important aspects to our operations here at the Gardens. So it behooves everybody to be able to make sure that each quality standard is being fulfilled and followed. Those staff meetings are then, that's with the main staff. And then we have, sometimes it's twice a month throughout the season. Sometimes as we get later in the season, it's once a month. But we have, for our volunteers and our dribble in seasonal staff, we have the going over of the program, much that I did today, but we really concentrate on quality standard number 2. That's the one that we go over bullet by bullet like I did today. We discuss it in detail. And then I also go back and I assess, especially the new people, but also everybody. I stand to the side or with people, I work beside them, and with that checkoff sheet, and we make sure that we're all doing it. It feels awkward, especially for the young people coming in. It feels awkward at first, but remember, I make sure that I create a relationship with either new staff or with staff who have not been assessed before. I don't go in there with a red pen, so to speak, and my checkoff sheet. They know that it's all for the Gardens. It's not just about them.
Thank you. Could you list again what the 4 quality standards are, what the different categories are called?
Sure. So quality standard number one is safety and prevention. And I didn't say that in the beginning, when we formulated these 4 areas of operation, I did have the staff prioritize them, but it was really interesting that they were all basically the same level of importance, although safety and prevention did come in first. And doesn't that make sense? No matter what, anything else that happens here, we want to make sure that people are safe. So quality standard number one is safety and prevention. And because we have a little bit of a time, here are some of the bullets that define quality standard number one. We make sure that we have a lost child or lost person protocol and that we know what it is. By the way, that is part of our training, and in those staff meetings, we go over how we handle lost child and lost person protocol. Here are some other bullets. We have a walkie-talkie system with enough walkie-talkies. That sounds like, we're sure you have enough walkie-talkies. Well, they are very expensive, and we just actually ordered 6 more. They're very expensive machines, and we want all of our volunteers to be having them now, and as well as everybody out on the ground. So that's another bullet that we are marching for to complete. Here's one. Our dock, we have about a mile of waterfront, and we have dock safety procedures. So that's another aspect of safety and prevention that we make sure that we follow and improve. Quality standard number 2, we went over that. That's how we act, basically. Quality standard number 3 is style and appearance that helps create a consistent guest experience throughout the gardens, whether it's assuring that no area is unclean or in disrepair. That's one of the top bullets that I'm reading from, that you'll be able to read from when you look them up, to wearing our badges and maintaining our dress code that we have. And it also actually entails having an excellent administration and execution of all programs, so that the staff and volunteers demonstrate that they're knowledgeable and prepared. That's style and appearance. That's how that when people walk into this organization and this facility, they are immediately expecting excellence from the get-go, whether it's our parking lots that I explained, or whether it's the gardens outside our admissions program, whether it's the admissions program. Quality standard number 4 is straightforwardness and simplicity that creates a seamless and intuitive guest experience at every touch point. So I talked about the parking lots and how we really analyzed what was missing, why were people being lost in our parking lots and not knowing where to go, and how we fixed that. It also has to do with our interpretive signage, our phone system. Our phone system, once again, these are, we're a young organization, and this year we finally figured out how somebody is always on the phone. Maybe a person won't be able to get that person immediately, but we now have somebody on the phone not 24/7, during our opening hours, which it sounds like an easy thing to do, but budget and whatnot, it's a little bit harder than we expected. So we now, when our phone receptionists leave, we are able to transfer it onto our admissions tables, where at that time of the day it's much slower. So now our admissions team has been trained to be receptionists at the end of the day. It's without that bullet on quality standard number 4, the phone system being a bullet, we might never have thought about, well, from 4:30 to 5, there's nobody's answering the phones, and now we do have somebody. So those are the 4 quality standards that really guide not only our guest services program, but they encompass all operations of this organization.
Thank you. We have a couple of questions about training. Do you get pushback from staff or volunteers about repeating this training every year? Do they say things like, I've already done this, why do I need to do it again?
Well, I do hear that once in a while. And I also hear some of our young people or new people. I'm working with them more than perhaps veteran people. But listen, there are only two of us, the director of horticulture and myself. We are the only two people that have been here since 2007. So so when you think of it that way, how important a yearly visitation to this program is, a yearly teaching, and a yearly assessment is. And, I mean, some people came on 2008 and a little bit more, but really, when you look at it, there's only two of us original people from 2007. Then, and that's what I say to the staff or the volunteers too. There's only two of us here and that have been here since the beginning. So it's really important that we go over this, every year. Plus, in all of the trainings we have, and there are trainings, we do fun food things. Food helps a lot, and we all get together and we socialize and we become, it's just, food makes everything more cohesive, I think.
Great. How long is the training for the volunteers?
Okay, so that's a half a day for the whole orientation. My end is about 45 minutes, but also I can say that's me up there in front of everybody for 45 minutes. But during the orientation, they are also, all of the points, the bullet points are being constantly pointed out to them, whether it's the accessibility commitment that we have, so that we can familiarize them with that, which is part of our safety and prevention bullets. So, or, the accurate answers to questions that we have that they ask, where it's constantly being pointed out that this is, again, part of our guest services program, so that they can see that every single touch point that exists in this organization is a part of our program.
Great. Do you require your employees or volunteers to wear matching or custom shirts for consistency?
Yes. This is the fourth year that we have initiated a so-called uniform. So the first year we got what do they call, polo shirts with our logo on it, embroidered on it. Nobody liked that. That was not comfortable and it wasn't attractive. The next year we went to an Oxford style shirt, and we initiated a bluish requirement of that we bought the shirts and put the logo on it, but we kind of went into a bluish requirement for our or decision for our uniform. And then every year since then, we order a new Oxford type of shirt that has our logo on it. And sometimes, so that, and everybody who works here, the requirement is that you wear a shirt with our logo embroidered on it. Some of the, it doesn't have to be the same shirt. I mean, at this point, we have 4 different shirts, and that's perfectly fine to wear any of those shirts on any of the days. And in addition, we also say that if you have your favorite Oxford print shirt and it's in the bluish scope of things, we will pay. There's a nice local place that embroiders our logo onto the shirts. We will pay for that embroidery onto your favorite bluish type Oxford shirt. There was pushback on that, but now we're all kind of used to it. And it looked so great. Now the horticulturists don't wear Oxfords, of course, but they do have those as far as to wear to events. But they have their own type of shirts that they wear, but it does have their logo on it. So the logo is the important branding that detail that we insist on, and the bluish Oxford is the second.
Thanks. At one point you mentioned the importance of treating your colleagues as internal customers. Can you provide any more detail about what you meant by that?
Yeah. So one thing that it used to be in the beginning that, you know, the office people were office people, and the horticulturists made these beautiful gardens, and they were for the guests. But when we started to think of these gardens as ours, all of a sudden, we had our administration thinking that those gardens were just as important to administration aspects as the horticulturists thought. We had philanthropy people saying, you know, of course, their efforts depend on our beautiful gardens, but it also depends on the philanthropy department thinking that those gardens belong to them also. So as the staff grew into our gardens, and as the gardens grew into our staff, so to speak, some really fun things also happen. We have in the spring, we have Gardens Agro, where the staff all signs up for at least one day, and we go out and we work in the gardens to help getting them all cleaned up for the season. We also have a winter light show that's called Gardens Aglow, and the staffs that also. And that is a nighttime, 4 nights a week. It's a nighttime, and it's a considerable commitment on all the staff's part. But it is an event that is ours. It's not just it's not out there for the guests. It's our event also, and it's a wonderful way to to visit with other departments, because I work outdoors at night with the traffic. I direct actually the traffic and pedestrian control, and I'm working with all people from every department out there. The admissions, all of a sudden the admissions people, my admissions team, are working with philanthropy people and other admission staffs. We're all working to make that event wonderful. Just like Gardens Agro, we're all working together to make those gardens wonderful, because they're ours. There is a real ownership. We really feel like there's an ownership of it. I mean, it is making sure that ownership and that passion is cultivated in every one of us. It's not easy, but it is absolutely essential that we have everybody thinking and believing and being passionate about this place in order for us to pass on those external guest services behavior and that really sincere and genuine love of this place.
Yeah. Thank you. That makes a whole lot of sense. So that's it for our questions. Thank you very much, Amanda, and thank you all for attending our webinar. Please feel free to carry on this conversation further on the Guest Services discussion board, or you can contact Amanda directly. The Guest Services community does plan on offering at least 2 webinars a year, so please do help us improve the process by sharing your general feedback about this one and any ideas you might have for future topics. If you enjoyed this webinar or found it useful, please let us know. You can contact me, Elizabeth, or the community's Vice Chair, Tyler, by going to our community's page and finding us at the top of the member list at the bottom of that page. Also, as I mentioned during the introduction, I learned about Coastal Maine's exemplary guest services program at an APGA conference. So I highly encourage you to submit a session proposal. The deadline is October 30th. Your talk can make a huge difference to the work being done by other guest service professionals. So are there any other questions or concerns before we adjourn? I'm not seeing any. Yes?
Yep. Oh, no, that was me, Elizabeth. Amanda,
Yeah.
I just want to thank everybody and thank you for this opportunity. And I hope people, please do email me. I really mean that. And maybe we can have a, so I can help anybody and answer anybody's questions.
Well, again, thank you very much, and goodbye. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.